Thanks for the note, Teresa. Know what you got. Restaurant. Sean, you're sitting so far away. We got Lamont C.
It's all good. It's all good.
You're welcome. You are? You're close to the door.
That's exactly.
How are you?
Great. Hey, sir.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming. Absolutely.
You too, Lamont.
Yeah, always, always.
Yeah.
Mike, how are you, young man?
Doing pretty good. Just enjoying the summer.
I heard that.
Summer that will be over before you know it. You know that, right?
Yeah, sadly.
Mm-hmm. Your look sounds like meat.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Things have been more blessed.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
Excellent, thank you.
I went up on Hoover, first of all,
Oh,
pulled up there, I'm like, find a parking lot here, and I
oh,
said,
no.
this is moves. And I couldn't even find an email, I was like, go back and like the email, I got an email in five.
I was like, I'd be like,
They're on the detail of the physical data, it was now. This thing wasn't like 5 minutes down.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
Yes. Eddie. Yeah. I was off.
Depends on how my third morning shapes up. I want to.
Oh, yeah. See that. Right, yeah. Good.
here and you're coming from someplace or going to someplace. This is kind of in between stops, so I dressed for occasionally both sides. I heard the old and I went, yeah, yeah. There has to be something, yeah, you're right. Definitely.
Hopefully.
What's going on, girl?
In the morning, it's working on.
Good.
Stay.
I mean, I know it's so worth it. Thank you. So I got stuff. But hey, that's okay. How are you doing? Katie's have
And then of course, yeah.
I always feel like that. Right after I have a grandson, that birthday. Denver.
Several times.
So far by. Closer to England.
Now.
Oh, crazy. That is crazy. And then you, luckily you got a fight from forward here.
Whiskey and one side.
bumpy things. I mean, it's been going this way for a while. She.
So close. We're just, we had to sit on the car actually 2 hours.
But it's just, it's messed with your head. And, well, I mean, that's.
And they ran out of gas.
Yeah. The blocks, whatever it is. That's
Oh, no,
all
no.
Here.
That's Southwest. I know. Of all times you got Southwest.
I don't know, maybe it's just a particularly bad day. But I'm
Thank you. So what'd you do for 4th of July? I'd do better than. Well, yeah.
Looking forward to fall class. Gonna go up to Wisconsin. Maybe this week. Absolutely. And we just got back from big trip. No, I thought you went to Europe.
Been out of the country for.
I'm.
Nope.
I have no issue with that. Sometimes that's so preferable.
Yeah, just ask them.
Like a big cycling trip. Maybe I'll want to. Maybe, yeah.
That's like, I thought about it. I don't
It's
want
good to see you.
Good to see you.
That's good. As far as I remember. I know I missed.
I understand. Yeah. I feel like.
In the corner, you're great,
Came by.
but I need to like swim in the end.
Because they're trying to take it. So they're. No. Oh, oh.
But you know, they look like.
Because-
Or something.
Steve.
Got one on the way. Yeah, should be January.
Now.
It's no more.
So.
I'm texting and he's. Last year she was. Yeah. She was.
And then my granddaughter, she had a shirt and it said like sisters. Me or something.
Yeah, like big sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they're real.
We're ready to go. Okay.
Can I have everybody's attention? We are gonna call this meeting to order. Hopefully everyone had a fun and safe 4th of July weekend. And our first business is the oath of office for Shanita Rice for Deputy City Clerk.
Hi, everybody. For anybody that needs to do their oath, if you could just raise your right hand and repeat after me. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
They're ready, Shanita.
Okay, I was just making sure. I state your name,
I, Sierra Scott,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the District 5 Advisory Board
of the District 5 Advisory Board,
for the City of Wichita, Kansas, so help me God.
the City of Wichita, Kansas, so help me God.
Perfect, that is it. I appreciate everybody. Thank you, Teresa.
Thanks, Shanita.
All right, so I think everyone on the board has the agenda. So we will start a movement for the approval of the agenda for July 7th.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Now we'll move on to the approval of minutes from June 2nd. Movement. So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, just keep moving along. All right, now to the public agenda. Does anyone on the board have any off agenda items?
I've got something. This is for, okay, so I'm part of a group called Wichita Clean Streams. We're a nonprofit organization. We support the watershed of the Ark River. And we do, education events, outreach events, and this weekend, as long as the water level is not too high and the stream flow is not too fast, we have one of our yearly events. It's called the Wichita Clean Streams Big Float. So you're able to, we have a license in the city of Wichita. We're able to get on the river and to float in like inner tubes or kayaks or big pink flamingos, whatever you want. You float down. People want the boats and bikes down by the river province. They have a safety boat out for you. They help pick you up if you need it. Sometimes the river doesn't flow fast enough and they have to tug you along, but it's a fun event. If anyone's interested in coming out and supporting the group, we would love to have you.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? All right, just move along then. And I'll hand it over to Vice Mayor Johnston for any updates, issues, and reports.
Thank you, Blaine. First of all, paid parking has begun in downtown. We'll hear about that a little bit later, maybe. I'll get my share of emails and calls on that. Like it just came up. We'll see how that goes. Secondly, the city Wichita ID program is in place. You can go to City Hall, they have a camera right there, they get you an ID right there at City Hall. So for people who don't have a driver's license, maybe they've lost your ID, you can't rent an apartment or anything without an ID. Can't get a job without an ID. So that's the idea, is to be able to give them some sort of identification so they can rent an apartment, get a job, some other basic tasks you probably take for granted. Third, fireworks. If it's not parking, it's fireworks. So I got 3 complaints, only 2 from District 5, the other one's from a guy I know out east. Before today, which is down considerably. Last year I got about 12. Then I got 2 more today. So I would say, from what I've heard, most District 5 residents support having limited use of fireworks. So it does keep me up at night. I go to bed about 9:30 or 10, but it is what it is. The last thing is wetlands, which does have water in it. Actually looks beautiful. It's really good. The grand opening or ribbon cutting is this Friday, July 11th at 8:30 a.m. So love to see people down there look at it and really enjoy it. It's a very unique feature. Really started under my predecessor, Brian Fry, which all of you know. It's a really unique feature, reason for people to come into our area in District 5 and enjoy it. Are there any questions?
Vice Mayor, the city ID, what types of entities are accepting that?
You cannot vote with it. So, hopefully that you get it for, if you rent an apartment, hopefully they will accept it. They should. It's a valid ID. So that's probably the main reason. Or a job, get a job. If you don't have an address, you can't get a job. So have an address on there, so you're able to get a job.
Thank
Um, I can't remember what was ultimately decided about the municipal ID, because I remember there was discussion about it, but Is it going to be available elsewhere besides City Hall?
Not right now.
Okay.
There's talk about putting at the second light.
All right, at the home
Shelter. It's just a staffing issue. To be able to staff both places. So right now, it'll just be at City Hall. I would love it to be at the public library downtown instead of City Hall. A lot easier, more easily accessed, but we'll see how it works now, and then they may move it later.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. All right.
Thanks, JV. Now we'll move on to our District 5 appointee Jill Kirshen, who will report on the Access Advisory Board.
Thank you. So.
Front center and former District 5 board member.
Yes, yes. So I was asked to be on this board by Brian Fry and subsequently JV. Huh?
Hard to see you with that screen.
I know, I'm like looking at the screen. It's interesting. So I don't know if I have to stand here or where. Anyways, so I represent District 5 along with a few members from other districts on this board. Not all boards are represented regularly. So anyways, and the board also is represented by the hard of hearing, the blind, and the physically disabled communities. We hear updates from city engineers, the planning committees, transportation like the bus system. They come and report regarding any changes that are being made in the city so that, you know, we can try to make sure that they conform to accessible guidelines. Most recently, activity on the board, on June 18th, the board wrote a letter of support to the Office of Secretary of Transportation for SS4A implementation grant application for the Broadway Corridor Safety Project here in Wichita. So we think that is a good project. I will say that I just found out today, we just received notice that we also wrote a letter to the city council and the Sedgwick County Commission and leadership regarding the $4.9 million project that's being underway right now that is intended to create a more walkable downtown, which is also updating one-way streets to two-way streets. So I'm sure JV's probably heard of it. I do have some copies of the letter if the board or anybody wants to see it. It will be read at the July 15th City Council meeting by one of our representatives. We are very disappointed that the city decided to go ahead with this project without updating to right away for accessible guidelines. So it is really important for us to maintain that, you know, walkability for those who need assistance. And the city is not doing that. So we are hoping, unfortunately, the project is already underway. It is more cost effective to do it when you start the project. But they didn't take our advice in 2023 when we said you need to adhere to these guidelines. And so now we're officially sending letters and notifying the city council that, you know, we're very disappointed in this. So this was kind of a timely meeting. This was, JV asked me to speak in June, which we kind of knew this was kind of coming up, but anyways, that's part of the board. And I believe Andrew Crane, he was going to come, and Susie Turnus are also on the board. They're District 5. They live in District 5. So if you have any questions, you know, we're here to answer them. But that's pretty much what this board does. We meet on Wednesdays, 10 to 11:30 once a month. I believe it's the third Wednesday of the month. So so sometimes it's highly represented, sometimes not so much based upon, you know, availability of people. So any questions? Yes.
Thank you for your service. What are some of the, or maybe the top two big points on that project that aren't being done that you wish would have been implemented?
Well, like the curbs, when they're redoing the streets to be two-way, the city didn't see a need to make the curbs accessible for everyone. That's the biggest one, I believe.
We did do some though. Accessible curbs. That's all I'm doing.
Okay.
But maybe not all.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Joe. Next up, we have Susie Turnez, with the Library Advisory Board, who will report on the Love My Library.
So I'm kind of double dipping. I serve on the same board that Jill does also, for the Access Advisory Board. But I also recently started serving on the library board. And so I wanted to share a little bit about a couple of things about the library system.
You can just use that.
Perfect. Okay. Again, I'm Susie Turnus. I live here in District 5, obviously. So I wanted to talk about three kind of main things about the library. First, I want to celebrate with you all our branch remodels. If you didn't notice, this branch has undergone a tremendous transformation. This was the library that I took my kids to when they were young, and I brought them back. They're all teenagers now. I brought them back and their jaws, all of them just dropped. And so we spent a good hour and a half exploring the library here to see what all was new and different. I'm just going to run you through. If you're like me, I pretty much stick to my library here. And so the library board, we were tasked with going to visit some of the other branches. If none of you have visited your home library, which you're here, but the other ones are really cool too. So just a little brief tour of some of the, I'm not going to read all of this, but some of the other branch remodels. This is actually Maya Angelou, which is kind of over by WSU. And I bet this video won't play. Teresa, do you know? Let me see. Oh, try it. Oh, yes. Okay. This is my teenage daughter going into the library. She also doesn't know I'm filming her. We put this together for our board because a lot of the board members hadn't been to some of the other branches. And this was a quick, easy way to show all of the board members some of the different branches. So that's that one. Let me go from here. Maybe. Maybe I'll just go this way. This is what the evergreen branch looks like. I can go. It really doesn't like that. Okay, just gonna do it this way. You can still see. These were some of the different things that were available at the evergreen branch. This is a new mural that's at the evergreen branch. Really, really cool. And is it not sharing anymore? Probably I messed it up. So sorry. I won't play any more videos. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yes, thank you, thank you. Okay. So that's a really neat piece at the evergreen branch. Here are people using the library. And then Walters, this is our board member and a librarian there at Walters. The board member said every computer was busy, everybody was busy doing things, and the librarians were very busy trying to assist people with things. And then, of course, Westlink, which you've all seen. And hopefully you've gone to look at all of the interesting parts of this building. If you haven't, you should go check it out. I think my favorite part is the sensory room, if you haven't checked that out, and my teenage kids really like it as well. Here's a meeting taking place in this very room. Okay, more Westlink, and I won't. This fella was really mesmerized by the outdoor lights. If you haven't been here at night, this lighting can change colors and looks really cool. This fella actually is deaf, and so he printed out a little transcript. I didn't see it here. Here it is. So he went up to the book drop up here, and of course he doesn't hear. So he has an app on his phone that transcribes what's going on. And so he used the book drop, and that's what it said to him. So he showed us a little screenshot of that. So really cool, really cool updates. So I just wanted to celebrate with you all of the branch remodels that are happening and that have been completed. And then I want to talk to you about the Love Your Library campaign. So the library is really trying to increase advocacy for the whole library system. And two things, you can purchase a really cool library shirt. Those are down at the Advanced Learning Library in the little bookstore. And then also they have these little yard signs like you'd put out around election time that say, Love Your Library. And those are kind of really to raise awareness for the library, and with the big thing of talking about funding for the library. And so that's my kind of third piece here. So I know that the city council is going through the budget process, and I know it's very hairy and very stressful, and everybody wants money, and I know it's very complicated. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what the budget cuts could potentially mean for the library. At one point earlier, maybe 2 months ago, there was a proposed 5% cut to the library. I think last I heard that's not as much as it is going to be. But if a cut like that were to happen, it could look like a 70% reduction to the collection, amounting to about 30,000 books. The other piece of that is a 5% budget cut. Could look like reducing the footprint of our branch system, especially it could potentially mean closing 2 branches or reducing hours at those branches. So, we have these really great spaces that the city has already invested in, and we really can't afford any budget cuts because that would mean reducing staff or potentially reducing a branch. So I'm just here really to advocate for funding for the library. We cannot go backwards. We cannot go backwards. So I really appreciate the time to speak here and would be happy to answer any questions about the library and the funding. What little I know about the funding.
Susie, the Love Your Library campaign is to raise money. We're not here for solar.
I haven't heard that piece for solar. I haven't heard that piece. I've heard that it's really more about generating awareness and interest in the library, but I have not heard of funding specifically for solar. Maybe you know something I don't.
They say the solar panels in all the libraries can save $100,000, which was a suggested cut. Library. So they're being very proactive. Yeah. Yes. One of the things that I learned, we had kind of a strategic planning meeting earlier this year, and the speaker who looks at libraries all over the world actually kind of compared other cities our size, Omaha, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Shawnee Mission area, and looked at our funding for the libraries compared to other places. And we were at the very bottom of the list for cities our size. So what the library does here is amazing, but with not very much money. Thanks for your service on the board.
Yes.
I'm a big supporter of the library.
Good.
So like you, my wife brought our kids, we have 4 boys, except mine are a lot older. My oldest one's gonna be 42 pretty quick. So, youngest one's gonna be 36. So she brought him here, after school. We did not allow TV, or at that time it was Game Boy, no devices, Monday through Friday. So,
That's tough.
so they played sports. They did a lot of things. They weren't on devices, so, worked out pretty well for us. So,
Absolutely. Well, that's what libraries are for, to give kids an opportunity to get away from devices and learn to use other resources.
I always say that too, that for society, you have to keep people healthy, number one, and number two, libraries allow people to raise themselves up.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
education is not the only way, but it's the easiest way to raise your standard of living.
Sure. And the services provided by the library beyond books. I mean, there are tons of them, but one of the things that I learned serving on this board is that people come to the library to help the librarians will help them apply for jobs, help them write resumes, things like that. I never thought to go to the library and say, hey, can you help me with this very personal issue? But librarians are really good at things like that. And so that's why having adequate staff, because when you have two staff members at one of the branches, they have two staff members and they might have 30 people in the library. You can't help 30 people with two staff members. So that's where staffing, we simply cannot cut staffing without cutting hours or a branch or something like that.
Also, to Westlink's horn here, 18% of the books checked out are from Westlink. The next closest branch is 7%. So the west side likes to read.
It's a busy library.
Yeah.
It's hopping.
West side likes to read.
For sure. And it certainly has a youth focus and lots of really good children's programming. So we love our librarians here. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you, Susie. Next we'll head to staff reports where Officer Perkins up first with the police department.
Officer Perkins, I'm one of the Patrol West community policing officers. It's been a while since I've been in DAB 5. I'm actually both of my beats are in DAB 4. I'm gonna go over just a few events, I guess you're gonna say, that we're gonna have. Two of them in DAB 5, and one of them is a citywide event, and one of them is on the 8th tomorrow. Culver's, the hamburger place, which I used to only be able to get when I would go to Wisconsin. But now it's their 1 year anniversary. They're going to have a share day for the Wichita Police and Fire Foundation. 20% of the proceeds all day are going to go into the Wichita Police and Fire Foundation. And also at the Freddy's, there are several around the city, but the one at DAB 5 is going to be the one at 21st and Tyler. That's on the 23rd, 15% of that. All those from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. are going to go to the Special Olympics. And the other one is Thursday, the 17th, is our Second Chance Thursday event. It's been an event that's been going on for several years. That's the one I'll call a citywide event. It's a 7-night bus. We other community policing officers from other bureaus will assist us. Pretty much what that is, I don't want to say it's an amnesty type event, but for individuals who have lower type warrants, environmental warrants, traffic warrants, parking warrants, not robbery or homicide type warrants, but we can come clear them. We have a working relationship with the DMV, so they can come and they can talk to individuals about, or the DMV about getting their driver's license back. If they want to pay their fine right there, we have municipal court. And that's going to be at Hyde Park, which is at 201 South Greenwood, downtown. So I'm going to go over some of the stats. I printed off and I have all the stats, the numbers out there. There's a lot of stats on here. It's kind of what it looks like. Very I pulled them like this. It makes it easier for me. What I like to concentrate, not that any of these other stuff is not important. I'm going to use the word bean counters. It's more important because the bean counters up. But so I'm going to go over kind of these are what we call the part 1 statistics. These are what's reported to the FBI. Just the lack of a term to say what's going to make Wichita take place. So, there's 8 part 1 crimes, or homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary. Those were the violent ones. We have non-violent ones that were reported also. Burglary, larceny or theft from auto and auto theft. 6 of our 8 part 1 crimes are down from this time last year. We have one that is up, and it's up significantly, and that is rapes. And looking into those, none of these rapes are no repeat suspects or no repeat victims. It's a bad crime. I don't want to lessen the crime at all. When I talk about this, is some of these were reported in 2025, and several of these occurred months ago, and even several of them were reported years ago. So just because we have a high number, that does not mean we have a stranger rate that's out there. Because we've gone up from, and the statistic for you that don't have one is that the year to date in 2024 at this time we had 7, and this is in DAB 5, and we have 19 now. Like I said, I've looked into some of these, and a lot of these were recorded in 2025. It's kind of like our clearance rate in homicide the year that Dennis Rader was arrested. Our homicide clearance rate was like well over 100%, because even though those homicides didn't happen in, I think, 2004, that's when we cleared those homicides. So we cleared more homicides in Wichita that year than we had. So it's kind of how numbers, and anybody who's taken statistics can tell you that either you can skew them your way, or I don't want to say they're misleading, but I mean, they are numbers, they are what they are. But that's the reason for the high number of rates that we have. Auto thefts are up, and in June there were 62 auto thefts, and this is citywide for auto thefts. In District 5 we had 10, and many of these are Kias and Hyundai. I don't know if anybody watches the news or anything. There's just a simple way. Back when I first started, you had Hondas. You just kind of took a Honda key and rubbed it on the ground. You could start any Honda. Kind of a thing of the past. Still happens. Like wheels and tires are getting slower. When I first came on, stereo, wheels and tires slowing all the time. Kind of a thing of the past. We've moved on with technology. But all of those were Kias and Hondas, and all of those have not been taken back to the dealership and have an engine immobilizers, for lack of another term, or the term that I would use, done. If you have a Kia or a Hyundai that's in the affected year, and I'm gonna say I can't tell you what that is, you can take it to Kia or Hyundai, and they will correct that for free. They're gonna do some sort of programming into the computer to where they make it where it's not gonna be able to be stolen the correct way that they're being stolen. Robberies, they're up, but they're up from 2 to 4. One of our commercial robberies was really probably more of a shoplifting with a battery. I shoplifted, and when you tried to stop me, I pushed you. Meets the definition of a robbery because I used force, but it really is a shoplifting with a battery involved in that. So, like I said, with reference to larceny autos, they're also up. Thefts from autos, most of these are opportunity. We do have individuals that I will say that that's their full-time job. All they do is they go out at night, they walk down neighborhoods. Anybody who has a next door app, I haven't seen it so much recently, but in months past, every other post was, I accidentally left my car unlocked, and there was video, and they got into my car, or they broke into my car, and you watch the video, and all they did was pull the handle. So make sure you lock your car doors. Don't leave anything in plain view. Well, it might be your dirty workout clothes. To them, could be a computer in a bag. They're gonna take it. Costs them nothing to take anything out of your car. You have a garage, park in it. If you can, don't leave any items in there. Lock your car. And if you have a garage door opener, we're creatures of habit. It's not programmed into our mirror with one of those buttons. We always stick it above our driver's sun visor, because that's the way we were taught, and that's the only thing that we had. Well, we stick it there, but it's convenient, you know, right there. I don't have to look at my console. But if you're gonna park outside, either at least take that down, put it in your console, better, take it in with you at night, because basically that is a key to your house. That you're leaving outside in your car, whether it's locked or not. Break your windows, press that garage door open. At minimum, they're in your garage. Many of us in here, we don't lock that interior door at night. So, like I said, at minimum, they're in your garage, but most likely you can have access to your house without having to make any noise other than the garage door. So, anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
Next, we're moving on to the fire department with Battalion Chief Ryder.
Did he say Ritter? No, okay. I'm Acting Chief Nico McVie. The normal chief that you would see here, Jason Jones, if you remember him, retired with 35 years of service about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So we wished him good luck. Yeah, I've known him my whole career. He's very ornery, if you didn't know that already. But he's good people. Just some of the things that we're focusing on. One of the biggest things we're running right now, obviously, is just due to weather, heat stroke, heat exhaustion. This is really the first humid with the heat that we've had to this extreme. We're running a lot of people down. Do this, so stay hydrated, watch other people. If they start getting sweaty, if they stop sweating and they should be sweating, probably need to call 911. Okay, we're making a lot of those. Just a few things that the fire department's up to. We just graduated 19 new recruits. Let's see. We got a new brush truck, which if you guys know what a brush truck are, they're the smaller truck with the big wheels, so they can go through the deep mud in the fields. And they can also be deployed to Colorado if they call for them, if we're in the business of doing that. We've always operated city squads, which didn't have the right tires, didn't have the right stuff, and they pull out into a field and then they get stuck. And then they're either going to try and get burned up or they're completely out of service to help us. So they ordered us a new brush truck. I believe that we've 11 fire engines and 1 truck are on order. That sounds great, but they are between 3. I think they're supposed to be here by 2028. So the manufacturers of fire trucks and stuff are very, very far behind. So if you don't order them now, you're looking way down the road before you can get any replacement. Let's see. I do not have any data for the 4th of July. Obviously, it was Friday and it's been a holiday. DAB 5 fires that you guys didn't have any in June. You did have one on the 4th of July. And that was due to putting fireworks in a poly cart, and we make these every year. And then they drag the poly cart up next to the house where they normally store it. They go to bed, poly cart lights on fire, and then turn their house lights on fire. Well, another thing, if there's a bunch of fire trucks out in your front yard, they're banging on your door at night. We're not the boogeyman. The folks that we went to their house, they didn't want to open the door, and their garage was full of smoke, and they were dead asleep. Luckily, somebody drove by because it was starting to light their house on fire, and it was the garage, so they would have never known until it started coming into the house, and a lot of times that's too late. So other than that, the 4th of July, at least for us, went pretty good. We had 12 teams out, firefighters and police department writing tickets for anybody that was not doing what they were supposed to be doing. Your fire station 16 spent half the night without power. There was arcing power lines across the road, and it dropped a phase at the station and started frying air compressors, and it didn't get the computers, but we had smoke in 2 rooms. By the time we realized what was going on, we killed all the power to the building. Luckily, or we'd have probably burned it to the ground. And after Evergy coming out 3 different times and the city electrical engineer coming out, we just got air conditioning back today. I apologize. I have to go. I'm sorry.
First time that happened.
All right, next we have Tracy Partridge with the Public Library.
With Susie here, I don't even need to come and talk because she did such a fabulous job of talking about like all of the remodels and what is happening. And I really appreciate the support and personal stories that you offered as well, Vice Mayor Johnston. Thank you. So I am Tracy Partridge, the manager of the Westlake Branch Library. Thrilled to be here, thrilled to have you meeting at the Westlake Branch. We feel very fortunate that our remodel is complete and we can now enjoy this space. I did want to mention the Alfred Branch Library. They had been under remodel. They actually opened in June. When they opened in June, the construction crew actually turned their sights on their meeting room. That has almost reached completion, so pretty soon they will be completely done. When that actually does happen, only our Rockwell Branch Library will be under construction. We are projecting a fall reopening for them, which is fabulous for the east side, but a little sad for us because we benefit from the Rockwell Branch Library being remodeled. 6 of their staff actually came to Westlake to help us out. So they will be leaving us and we will miss them deeply. Right now we are having our summer reading club. Summer reading club is not just for little kids. Summer reading club is for absolutely everyone. So if you have not signed up for summer reading club, it is not too late. You can sign up your little ones, birth all the way up to 17, but you can also sign up yourself. And adults, they have the chance of prizes. Kids definitely get them. Okay. We will be distributing prizes all the way until July 31st. We do have a table with a teen volunteer whose day would be made if you signed up for summer reading club today. Susie talked about the Friends of the Libraries campaign where they are making you aware of libraries with signs for your yard and then also t-shirts. I have decided I'm going to start a t-shirt fashion show. And next month, I will wear one of my library t-shirts and I'll do it the next. And that way you can see what you need to purchase because it's just that fabulous. A couple of other things that I wanted to mention, the Westlake Branch Library this Saturday is having a Win with Words program at 2:30. That is for adults. We're going to play Scrabble, Boggle, expose ourselves to the fabulous New York Times puzzle section that you have access to with your Wichita Public Library card for free. And then also do some library related crosswords, word searches, etc. Just we're going to win with words and it's going to be great. I do also want to mention the tiny art show that the Evergreen Branch Library is having on Friday, July 25th at 3, because who doesn't want to make a fancy little canvas where you can paint something beautiful, display it at their library for 2 weeks, and then take it home to enjoy. Does anybody have any questions about the library? Okay, well then I don't have anything that I can answer. Sadly. Okay, thanks guys.
All right, lastly, we have Reggie Davidson with the Park and Recreation.
So good evening, Reggie Davidson with Parks and Rec. We'll kind of give some updates on some things that we have going on. I know that this past Friday, we had our Red, White and Boom event that took place downtown. We did something a little different this year. We actually launched the fireworks off of the Garvey Towers down a town across from Century 2 and had a watch party from there at Century 2 as well as in Kennedy Plaza. Had a really great turnout for it. Had 7 food trucks that were there on site. And thousands of our community members came out and enjoyed it. We also worked in conjunction with the Windsors. So when their Friday night fireworks show ended, ours started. So we had an opportunity to do 2 in one night for the community to actually enjoy. So that was exciting. We're looking at ways that we may be able to expand that for next year. So we transitioned there because of some of the river bank improvements that are being done right now. So we weren't able to launch from the riverbank where we normally do it. And we're gonna look at whether it's something we can continue for next year because we got a lot of good response and feedback from that. We're also launching our Floating on the River events that's taking place. So we have morning, sunset, and senior tours that we actually do launching from Gander Mountain going up to the Keeper of the Plain. Our first one's on this Saturday, July the 12th. And we already have about 15 people registered for that particular event, so they get an opportunity to enjoy the river there, as well as come back and have a dinner there at the boathouse afterwards to kind of finalize the event that we have. We have people coming as far as the Kansas City area that have been down for some of the tours, so it's really popular and gets a lot to showcase the downtown area and what we do there on the river. We're currently doing right now our adult sports leagues that are open. So we have open for volleyball, slow pitch, softball, as well as our kickball. And we are launching our NFL flag program as well this year. I had mentioned before, that's one of our fastest growing programs that we actually have. We started it 3 years ago with about 100 participants, and we're close to 700 in 3 years that we've grown the program. So a lot of good participation with that and the community coming out for it. As you know, we have Vice Mayor mentioned Friday is the ribbon cutting for the Pratt Wetlands, so we're excited about that. That's at 8:30 on Friday morning. And if you're not aware, the Conservation's Dog Park is open now, getting a lot of good traffic there. And one of the fun facts we had that District 5 has the most registered dog owners in the city. And so we're the last one to get a dog park that's up and working, so get a lot of participation there for that. And a lot of great things going on in the department. We're in the process right now of getting ready to go to our park master plan that's coming up, and we're excited about getting that going and being able to get feedback from the community on what our park system looks like in the next 10 to 15 years. So we'll be having some community engagement opportunities to get feedback from the residents on what they would like to see in our park system. And we will be getting out to each of the districts to get engaged with that process as well. So looking forward to that. And a good way to stay abreast of everything that's going on, please download our app, and it sends you notifications of different things that we have all happening throughout the park system, and being able to stay up to date with anything that's taking place there, and also give you an opportunity to share it with your friends as well, so they're aware of what we're doing in our department. So if you have any questions, I'll stand for any questions.
Most of you know Reggie is the director now. He's also District 5 resident. Director in our district, so.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, Reggie. All right, so that's all our staff reports. Is someone moved to receive and file them?
Someone.
Second. All right, thank you. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. Now moving on to our new business, we have Heather Schroeder with the Downtown Wichita Action Plan.
Hey, you're welcome. I'll get yours. So, I can share. You didn't have video on it? No. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to Vice Mayor Johnston for the invitation to come and share what we've been working on in your downtown. So a little bit of just background information. This is downtown Wichita. So technically, it's the area that extends from the Arkansas River to Kellogg to Washington to Central. So that's our roughly 100 block area that makes up your central business district, your entertainment district, and for a lot of people, their neighborhood. And so Downtown Wichita, in case you're not familiar, is a nonprofit organization. We're a 501c3 formed back in 2001. And what we do is provide support to downtown. So that takes a lot of different forms. One thing that we do is help with development projects. So we work with developers to say, you know, hey, what are you planning on building? We actually have market research that can help you support your application for a bank loan, for example, that says, hey, there is demand for housing downtown. There is demand for retail and office despite COVID recovery. We help market downtown. So whether it's promoting a new business that's opening up or promoting events. One thing I wanted to mention that we're working on with Reggie with Parks is promoting a summer concert series. So starting July 25th, free concerts in NAFSCA Park every Friday night. So that'll run for 4 weeks. We help to sponsor that, to bring more people downtown, give you great reasons to come visit your city. And then enhancing vibrancy. This is kind of our nice catch-all. This is everything from gallery alley, cultivating public art and lighting and fun spaces for people to explore, to some of these special programs that we help to promote. So back in 2010, long before I was a Wichitan, I moved here about a year ago. So I'm learning so much about Wichita and loving it. Back in 2010, some of our leadership from the city sat down and said, we really need a plan to guide downtown's recovery. At that point, not many people were living downtown. From what I hear, it was pretty dead, which is hard for me to imagine today. There's so much going on downtown. But they got the community together through a series of engagements and public meetings, got all this great input and put together a plan. That plan helped guide things like, well, what if we put a mix of uses in these vacant buildings on Douglas Ave? What if we cultivate retail on the ground floor and residential upstairs? So it kind of gave some of our development community the confidence to try some models that hadn't really been tried here before. And so back in 2010, at the time they were doing the plan, this is kind of what the landscape looked like for development. So, you had some good projects that had recently been completed, fewer than 2 dozen. You had about a dozen projects under construction and a couple more in the pipeline. Well, 15 years later, so this was as of December 2024, you can see 110 projects were completed. So, there's a little bit of cause and effect with that master plan, but really it gave, again, people the confidence to say, I'm going to take a risk and invest in my community. So we're thrilled to see this covers everything from housing to office to entertainment to restaurants. In total, we're calling this our $2 billion downtown because we've completed $1.7 billion worth of investment. We've got this pipeline of $760 million in projects that are either under construction or in the planning phases. So you can see we've exceeded that $2 billion worth of investment. Also, we have this little thing developing called Biomedical Corridor. So we have, this $300 million centerpiece building that I think now has 7 stories of steel. I feel like every time I look outside my office, another story has gone up. It's going up so quickly. But around that, we're also seeing additional development. So, HeartSpring has announced an outpatient care facility. ComCare has hired the same architect as WSU, this wonderful firm called Helix. And so they'll have a complementary new building for acute care. Of course, the Kansas College of Osteopathic Medicine, Kansas Com started it all in terms of providing medical education in our downtown. So we're really seeing this kind of cluster of activity there. So $2 billion and 15 years later, it's time to update our plan. A lot of good came out of that first iteration, but we'd be silly to stick with the plan, when there's been all that change. We need to reflect that. So once again, we're going to the community, we're going to you all and saying, what do you want to see in your downtown? You can see the planning area here is this red line. And again, the downtown line is that blue dotted line. So why have we extended past the downtown boundaries? Well, there's a lot of activity happening in Delano. There's a lot of activity happening north of Central. We want to make sure that we're taking a cohesive look at the core. We want to incorporate all these other developments that are happening. Downtown's not going to take over any other districts. It's just saying, hey, let's work together. Let's make sure that we're collaborating. As you grow, we grow. Let's do it together. So we started this planning process really last fall. That's when we put out a request for proposals to national planning firms. This work is big and fast, and we needed outside help to work with us. So we were hoping that maybe like 4 firms across the country would take an interest in this and reply. We were overwhelmed by the response. 17 different national and global planning firms applied to work with us. So we had our pick of the crop. We picked the best one there is. They're called Sasaki. We're working with professionals out of their Boston and New York offices, and they are so impressed by our community. Why do they want to work here? Because they hear about our growth in industry, our advanced manufacturing, our investment in ourselves. Again, looking at all of that investment over the past 15 years, it has changed the way that Wichita operates. So we hired Sasaki, and then we also did some market research. So we hired the same firms that we've been working with since 2009, since that first master plan, to do updated market research for us, because their last forecast came true. Their last forecast said, you're going to have this surge of housing development downtown. You're going to have more office headquarters locating in your downtown. So we said, tell us more. Tell us our future for the next 10 years. What are we going to see? And they told us that we can expect to see at least 650,000 square feet of redeveloped office space. So, you know, we have a lot of office space that isn't really meeting the standards of some of our, you know, potential headquarters tenants. If we redevelop that, people are going to occupy it. Similarly, if you have unused office, you can also convert it to housing, because right now we have 3,000 housing units downtown. That's expected to more than double, to grow by 125% in the next 5 years. So it's like we can't build housing fast enough to accommodate the demand that's pent up. And then we also did a study on hotel rooms. There's been some hotel development downtown. The new AC Marriott Hotel is going to open up on July 16th. Really excited to add those 119 rooms to downtown. On top of that, we can handle about 500 to 600 more rooms. So really good to know kind of where we're growing to. So that's what we've been up to. And then January was really when Sasaki hit the ground running. And whenever you're new to a community, the first thing to do is listen. And so they spent 3 months researching, listening, coming to the community, meeting the stakeholders, and learning about kind of our current lay of the land. And so one thing that they showed us was that our zoning is really good downtown. You know, we have central business district CBD zoning, which means you can build a lot, and you can build a lot of things mixed together. But we haven't done that yet. So we have a lot of potential. What the little pie chart at the bottom is showing you is that we've only developed 15% of the land in our downtown. You know, to the full capacity of how high it can go, how dense it can be. So with our existing footprint, we can do a lot more. This is my favorite map. This is parking. Everything red is parking. So if anybody tells you there isn't enough parking downtown, ta-da! It's actually 48% parking, surface parking lots. When you add in our parking garages, 60% of our land area downtown is taken up by parking, more than half. And there's a quote in the kind of downtown world that I love, is that the more parking you have in your downtown, the fewer reasons you have for people to visit. You know, so we would much rather see that parking managed and used and redeveloped into something interesting for you all to go to. They took a look at our historic buildings to get a sense of our vernacular architecture. You know, this is not going to copy any other city's plan. This is a uniquely Wichita plan. So let's start with our history. You know, what kind of buildings have we built in the past? How do we want our new buildings to reflect that, or complement that, or diverge from that? Of course, we looked at transit. How do people get around? You know, what options do we have also for bicycling throughout the city? And then we've had a lot of meetings. So we had our first kickoff open house March 4th. We had a second open house, and I apologize. We scheduled it during your DAB meeting last month. And so we won't do that again. We'll make sure that the one we have the last week of August, so the week of August 25th, will not be on Monday night at 6. We don't want to conflict with that again. We want to make sure that you all can come. We've been having smaller stakeholder group meetings with cultural leaders to say, hey, we have a wonderful art scene in Wichita, but it's a little bit separated. You know, you've got museums on the river, you've got downtown museums, you have new museums looking to locate downtown. You know, how do we work together cohesively to create those attraction points for people who live here and people who are coming to visit? We did pop-ups during NCAA tournament in Navsker Park. We picked people's brains and said, tell us what you want to see happen downtown. So far we've engaged with 800 people in our community. That's pretty good for a community the size of Wichita, but we're not done yet. We have a lot more work to do. I am pleased to say that I looked at our representation map. We've been asking everybody to share their zip code. And District 5 has been pretty well represented in this process. But if you sitting in this room have not yet engaged and shared your thoughts for how you want to see downtown grow and develop and change over the next 10 years, we want to hear from you. So this is kind of a debriefing of who we've heard from so far. We really want to reach out more to our Latino community because you can see, I think 5.9% of our engagement has been with the Hispanic and Latino community, whereas 20% of our city is Latino. So we need to do a better job there. Age-wise, we've got pretty good representation. Could hear from some younger folks and some older folks. And then gender, we're pretty split. So what have we learned so far? Our friends at Sasaki have divided this up into 5 different categories because it's so much information. We said, let's digest this. So first off, history and culture. We asked people at the first open house, where do you take your friends and family when they come to town? What do you like to show off about Wichita? And so each one of their answers is a dot on this map. Look at that clustering around the river. The river kept coming up. You know, you also see some clusters in Old Town and around the arena, you know, some around like the Orpheum, that first street corridor where we have a lot of arts organizations, but primarily it's around the river. Same thing with landscape systems. Where do you spend time outdoors? Again, people said, I go to the river. You know, you see again some dots on NASCAR Park, but primarily we're over at the river. So then at the second open house, we said, okay, we understand you like the river. What do you want to do there? You know, what uses would you like to see that we haven't seen yet? Food and beverage was the top thing. Who doesn't want to enjoy, you know, a steak and a martini while looking at a sunset over the river? Sounds pretty nice, right? You can't do that right now in downtown Wichita. We don't have any riverfront restaurants. Somebody from Boats and Bites said to me the other day that they have the distinction of being the only business with their front door on the river. And I think that, you know, we deserve more riverfront spaces here. In addition to that, recreation, you know, we've got a good start on that. We've got the float coming up. Cultural resources. So, you know, is there room for more museums on the river? Other performance spaces? People have talked about outdoor spaces for performance. We have the new amphitheater, the Wichita Foundation amphitheater that opened last fall at Exploration Place. We have the new destination playground that they're building, or destination playscape opening in spring of 26 there. But again, other variety that we can see on our river. And then in terms of the feeling, you know, what do you want it to look like when you go there? People want it to be lush and activated. And the example, the team had put out all these pictures and said, you know, show us the picture that you want Wichita's riverfront to evoke. And they said, we like this Avon River in New Zealand. That's the feeling we want. Of you can walk down into it. You've got lush space. You've got greenery overhead. You have shade. You don't have to boil when you're out there. We also asked people about living and working downtown. And I apologize, the slide formatted a little wonky, but what this is telling us is that people said, you know, if I'm not living or working downtown, here are some of the reasons why. You know, there's not enough public transportation. There aren't protected bike lanes, so I don't feel safe biking downtown. Look at this +5. So that means 6 people total said, lack of a grocery store is really inhibiting my ability to live downtown. We've heard that a lot. Nighttime safety, not so much of a concern. Not enough for sale homes. I'm going to come back to that. And then we asked them, what kind of housing do you want to see downtown that might be missing right now? Townhomes. Our friends down in Oklahoma City have brand new townhomes that they're building in their downtown. Great ownership option for people as well as rental. We don't have that option yet here. Mixed use buildings, you know, we're seeing that with a lot of the reuse of, you know, the National came from a bank building, the Lux, you know, these adaptive reuses. As we look at maybe new construction on some of those surface parking lots, people want to see more mixed use construction. At the second open house, we said point blank, would you rather rent or buy downtown? Look at that, 72% of respondents said they would like the option to buy their housing downtown. Right now, we have about 5 buildings that have condominiums, you know, from Water Walk to a couple old buildings in Old Town, to the St. Francis Lofts across from the arena. It's a really limited number of options. They tend to be quite expensive. You know, homeownership doesn't have to be that expensive, especially when you share walls and build, for example, townhouses. So it's kind of all coming full circle as we add this feedback together. Urban form. So urban form is, wonky language for what does your downtown look like? As we've had some new developers come into the market, they say, okay, this is what I do in the suburbs. I'm gonna take that same thing and put it in the middle of downtown. Well, maybe that doesn't fit in a downtown context. Maybe the materials don't match those historic buildings that we studied. One thing that I like to say is that when I moved to Wichita and my friends were saying, aren't you scared of tornadoes? I said, no, because on Douglas Ave, there are buildings from the 1880s. So they build strong, they built to last. The tornado, where's the wood I can knock on? The tornadoes have not knocked down Douglas Ave yet. And so, to me, that's a legacy of quality, right? So how are we reflecting that legacy of building quality in what we're building new? Are we using steel, glass, and brick? Or are we using MDF and other plastics and vinyls and things that in 5 to 10 years might not look as good as those neighboring brick buildings? Getting around, mode of transportation. So a couple things I want to point out on this slide. That gray bar chart to the right. This shows us that 50% of respondents said they're willing to park and walk 10 minutes or more to get to their destination downtown. 30% of people said, nah, I want to make sure my walk is less than 5 minutes. So our community is really split on this walking thing. But we did have a preference for I'm willing to walk. It's okay. Which is good because right now there's only paid parking on 10 blocks downtown. So you can park 5 minutes away from your destination for free and walk to where you're going as they phase in the new meters. But also we're seeing this shift in preference for from car dominated transportation. So that light blue box that says 50 in it, that represents the people who said, yeah, I use my car primarily to get around now. That little darker blue box inside of it that says 5, the number of people who said, I still want to rely mostly on my car 10 years from now. At the end of this planning cycle in 2035, when everything in this plan that we've dreamed up is completed, I still want to be using my car as my primary form of transportation. Meanwhile, right below that, the walk, 25 people said, today I primarily walk. 48 people said, in 2035, I want to be a walker. I don't want to be dependent on my car. I want to have the choice to walk around. So we're seeing kind of this shift in attitudes about, transportation options. And how does that translate into the streetscape? So this is a picture of, I believe, Topeka, facing south towards First Street. So you've got the Scottish Rite Temple up there on your right. And so, kind of looking at our current conditions, we've got narrow sidewalks. We had a bike lane that wasn't protected. I believe that was removed when the street went to 2-way recently. So we may, have opportunities to bring back bicycle infrastructure there. But the thing that really stands out to me is these pink P's on both sides. You're walking down a corridor of nothingness because you got parking on both sides. So they said, well, what if? Let's think about this differently. What if each of those parking lots was redeveloped and you had sidewalk cafes? Suddenly that becomes a much more interesting walk for anybody going down that street. Feels more interesting, maybe a little safer, maybe, you've got good smells of food beckoning you on. But the number one thing we've been hearing from the community that's missing in our downtown streets is trees. We rolled out a full-length map of both sides of Douglas Ave, and we gave people stickers and we said, show us what you want to see. We ran out of tree stickers within the first half hour. Everybody used them up because Kansas is hot. The best way to have, easy shade, plant a tree. We really have a lot of gaps in our street tree coverage. So we looked at, I'm going to take that line to wrap. That's no problem.
No.
So we looked at case studies and we said, we asked Sasaki, can you give us examples of communities that have done these kind of similar changes to their streetscape? Because they've really kind of keyed in on Douglas Ave and said, this is your transformational street. This is your signature street. And they compared it to Mass Street in Lawrence. And they said, would you ever guess that the #2 TripAdvisor activity for Lawrence, Massachusetts is Mass Street. Go walk this street. That's the recommended tourist activity. So, you know, investing in your streetscape can really yield dividends for your tourism, for economic development. Businesses open up when people are there, right? People are drawn to comfortable walking environments. So they showed us these two transformations. One was Lancaster, California, not Pennsylvania. And what Lancaster did is every time they had streetscape funds, they applied it to, you know, doing something to enhance their public realm. So you can see they added street trees on the sides, they widened the sidewalks so it was more comfortable to walk. In the middle, they created a parking median. They tripled the amount of parking. They added two angle parking lanes in the middle of their street. And they added trees so that when you come back to your car after shopping, maybe it's not boiling hot because it's been in the shade. Similarly, Greenville, South Carolina, since the 90s has been investing in their streetscape. They went from this kind of, dare I say, desolate landscape on the left with not a tree in sight to this lush green environment where you see, oh, there's actually cars on the street now parked in front of shops. You know, you see a lot more activity there. So this has really kind of caught our attention as a way to get the most bang for our buck, is focus on one street and do it well. Give people that connective tissue between Old Town and the river, because right now it's just kind of a vast expanse of heat. It's not comfortable to walk. You know, so a lot of people just use their cars and drive 5 blocks, right? Because it's hot here, you want to be in the AC. You know, if we invest in awnings, misters, streetscape, trees, we can change that feeling. We can make it a much more comfortable environment. So we have these 4 main goals that have emerged from the process so far. We're about a third of the way through this planning process. Goal number 1, I talked about improving that connectivity, making sure that these areas of vibrancy have connective tissue. Activate the river. People have been banging us over the head with this, you know, and I like to point again to our neighbors in Oklahoma City. They built a fake river through their downtown. They wish they had what we have. We have it, and we've turned our backs on it. Let's put our front doors on our river because it's a wonderful natural asset that's unique for a downtown of our size to have. Elevate the design. Again, let's pay attention to what we're building and make it last. You know, make it worthy of the legacy of downtown Wichita, these beautiful old buildings that people have painstakingly rehabbed. You know, the Orpheum is another great example of a historic gem that's now undergoing this $12 million renovation. Can't wait to see that completed in a year. And then create a full experience. What that means is that's your grocery store, that's your pharmacy, that's being able to live your full day-to-day life within downtown without having to get in a car. So, you know, fine to have the option to hop in your car and drive a couple miles, but I will say, as a person who both lives and works downtown, I can't buy a carton of milk in downtown Wichita right now. There is no place that will sell me, you know, a half gallon of milk. So that's something that makes it really difficult, whether you're, you know, setting up a coffee meeting at work or trying to bake a cake. So just making sure that we are keeping tabs on the amenities that are missing and having those conversations with our brokerage and leasing community to help incentivize that. So again, we're in phase 2 of this 3-part project. You know, where ideate and iterate is just, you know, wonky speak for design. So we are in the design phase of testing designs, seeing what will work. And then phase 3, align and act, that's implementation. So what we've said to the team is, do not include any recommendations in this plan that are not implementable, that are not fundable. We want to know the toolkit for enacting all of your recommendations. So that's what they're going to do for us. They're putting together developer toolkits. They're putting together public toolkits, you know, streetscape guidelines, basically giving us the instruction manual for not only how to do it, but how to fund it, because we want to make these changes happen for you in your community. So again, if there are changes you'd like to see that aren't yet reflected in this, I will put my contact information up there. Please call me, email, downtownwichita.org/action plan has all the information so far. And we would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, there's an old wives' tale. Says where two rivers meet, a tornado will hit.
Yes,
Heard that.
I have.
Oh, no, yeah, probably not true.
Whenever there's a bad storm, I'm like, what? Oh, let's see the keeper again.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah. You got 3,000 housing units downtown. What's the magic number to get a grocery store down?
What kind of grocery store do you want? Because the number changes depending on, so if you want if you want a Dillon's in your downtown, a full service grocery store, you need 10,000 units. But if you want a mom and pop store or a bodega or a convenience store, we do that now. So it really depends on the size and the scope. I kind of think 5,000 is like the sweet spot, so within 3 to 4 years, we'll have that nice foundation. But I don't think it would be out of line for somebody to locate there now, especially as Biomed, continues construction. They're scheduled to open 27, so you'd want to coincide your opening with that. Great question. Yeah, any other questions today? All right, yeah. That's okay.
You all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. It's great seeing this presentation again, Heather. I really appreciate the work you're doing. When you're talking about, tree canopy and especially along Douglas. I realize you've only been here a year and I don't know, how much the current conversations are informed by past conversations or whether there's any kind of internal reflection going on. Downtown Wichita was very, very strongly supportive of an action that took away a lot of trees downtown at NAFSCR Park. Obviously, that was a concentrated area. It wasn't along Douglas, so it wasn't the same kind of, tree coverage that you're pushing for. There were a lot of problems with activating that, but still, if you're just talking about heat sinks, we had some greenery downtown and we lost it. Do you feel as though there's been some changes in priorities with downtown Wichita, or are you conscious of the kind of thinking that went into supporting the changes at NAFSCR in the past and whether it's any different today, or I don't know, just some thoughts?
I think, from what I hear about I've seen the before of NAFSCR and I see the after, and from what I understand, the NAFSCR park that we have today addressed a lot of challenges. It provided open space, it provided flexible space for programming. The number one complaint I hear from people, though, is that we don't have the shade that was once there. Granted, people weren't really using the park when it was shady. And I guess it was shady in other ways as well. But the tree canopy missing is something that I think people say, oh, if we could do it again, that's something that we would have prioritized more. So kind of learning from those kind of not trial and error, but just, I think there has been a shift in preferences. Also it's hotter, I think we're dealing with increased temperatures and increased discomfort, trying to navigate that. So, the cheapest thing you can do to mitigate that is plant trees. Again, if you're just tackling one street, it's not going to do it, but you got to start somewhere.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to all those things. I've been here long enough where I've seen trees down Douglas, seen trees all over and everything. They go, okay, you have to take care of them. There's other alternatives, and I'm glad that you talked about other canopies that you can build. That'll provide shade. Without the maintenance, the trees are going to
And to your point about other types of canopies, so awnings, whether they're fabric or the metal slats that you see projecting 90-degree angle from buildings, right above the storefront level. Those are things that a city can codify and say, hey, if you're building a new building, or if you are a business that's taking out an occupancy permit for ground floor space, before we're going to give you that permission, you have to add this one thing. And then it provides that consistency where you can walk in the shade the whole way.
Any other questions or feedback?
Yeah, thanks for being here. If I recall, refresh my memory, you
intentionally took the year off the next plan, right? So that it wasn't like downtown Wichita Plan 2040. Well, how far are you hoping this next plan will get you to, or is it be sort of a gut feel? I only ask because I know time can be a boundary, that can provide some sense of urgency sometimes and invoke other investment, but tell me about.
Yeah, so we cut our planning process really like close to the bone. So some communities take 18 months to put together their plan. We gave our consultants 9 because we said we want to get to work and we want the things in this plan to be implemented in the next decade. So this is our 2035 plan. So, by the end of September, we're gonna have our completed plan. And October, we begin the work.
Heather, have you done anything to incentivize? Because I've been here since 2001 and I've heard this conversation since 2001. And to get companies and businesses to relocate downtown hasn't worked. What are you discussing that's different and will be different in this plan than any other plan?
I think there is a shift in industries that are locating downtown. So we do have some new headquarters that have opened up downtown. They tend to be in tech, education, and medical. So we're kind of the lucky beneficiaries of these shifting national trends that in order to compete for, and I will also say engineering, in order to compete for talent, firms are realizing that a downtown office space is a competitive advantage because those young engineers or, med students or, digital computer programmers want to be able to walk to lunch with their colleagues or want to be able to go out to happy hour without having to get, drive to second location. So we're beneficiaries of that changing trend. But you also get a great question about incentives. The city of Wichita does have a roster of incentive programs available. They tend to be more for redevelopment projects and not so much for company relocation. And it's a heavy lift. So I know, I work closely with colleagues at the Greater Wichita Partnership. We lost a big aerospace company to to Alabama because the state of Alabama put forth a $6 billion package, and we couldn't compete with that. So there's kind of varying degrees. I think the best thing that we could do is an incentive for companies to locate downtown is to invest in quality. Just create the best downtown that we can so that it's a no-brainer that if you're locating your new headquarters in Wichita, of course you're going to be downtown because that's where the action is.
All right, any other questions? Just two more follow-ups. I didn't see it on your list. Did childcare come up at all in terms of like a barrier to downtown living in any conversation, even if it didn't like Ryan said?
It has not come up, but if you're telling me that it's an issue, I'm gonna write that down. And I'm gonna take that back. But we do have at least one daycare provider located right downtown, at the corner of St. Francis and Douglas. And we have Learning Lab, which is kind of a private education program in the Union Station expansion. But what we hear is that downtown is not so much family friendly. So it's not so much that I need a place, for my children to be while I'm at work. It's that when I bring my children downtown, there's a limited number of activities I can take them to. So that's something we hear loud and clear because it's kind of like if you build for 5-year-olds, you've built for everybody. Everybody can consume that activity.
Anything else? Yeah. In the report with the consultants that provide feedback, are you anticipating if they suggest a certain amenity that there could be a funding recommendation for? Might need to raise public dollars or leverage tax dollars. Is that a possibility in the plan from consultant recommendation?
It is, what they're studying right now is kind of what's our current landscape of tools. Right. And so if they have case studies from other communities, especially ones that might be similar to ours, fellow Midwestern cities, they'll make recommendations and say, hey, this is something worth checking out because it enabled that community to achieve, these milestones. But it's going to be more like a menu of options rather than prescriptive, because at the end of the day, it's our choice how we want to invest ourselves. Yeah.
Maybe, you answer maybe the toolkits that the consultants are developing. But kind of following up on that question, how much of the implementation will be up to the existing members of downtown Wichita, essentially, on one hand, or the decisions by the city council, on the other hand, permitting or changing zoning or implementing, codifying some of the things that you mentioned, or third parties coming in.
Yeah. You've hit the nail on the head. It's gonna be a true team effort. So what's in the plan will dictate, you know, my organization's work over the next 10 years. So it's our framework for doing our work. But so much of that depends on buy-in from the public and private sector.
In that vein, your list of 110 projects in the past several years and so forth. I see. I don't see that acknowledged in the publicity or in the public view. So forth. It's something that I'm struggling with, different contexts, but what can you do to be more public, be more about that, what has been accomplished, what has happened?
First, I can start by asking you all to spread the word. The downtown is alive and well. You know, and we try to do a lot of community engagement and share that message. But really, we can use all the cheerleaders we can get. I think it's also worth celebrating that those 110 projects, that 1.7 billion of completed investment is a combination of public and private. So like the recent two-way conversion, that's reflected in that, you know, sewer infrastructure projects on a large scale downtown are reflected in that. You know, also public-private partnerships are reflected in that. So, you know, we've really tried to knit together, you know, all of the investment that we're seeing coalesce around this single neighborhood to show that, you know, when we do put our heads together in our collective will, we get a lot done. Oh.
Heather, I really appreciate you coming here. That gets the word out too. So coming out west and sharing. That was good.
Thank you. We have a question about, do we know a ratio or percentage what buildings are empty or vacant versus occupied with housing or a true business? Unfortunately, I don't have those ratios off the top of my head. I do know that our housing occupancy is like 95%. But buildings overall, I mean, I can point to buildings that are, you know, we have the large, is it Century Plaza right next to, or like right across from Century 2 is 100% vacant right now. So nobody in the ground floor, nobody upstairs. So unfortunately, what I have for you right now is just anecdotal examples, but you know, great point that we need to, you know, make sure we're tracking all of that.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, I think that was our last thing, so wrap this up. The next District 5 Advisory Board meeting is scheduled for 6 p.m. on Monday, August 4th, right here in the Westlink Library. So. Second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same time. Thank you guys for coming to the District 5 Advisory Board.